Hi, and welcome to IGP 101 with me, Samira Mia, and I want to help you in getting started in Islamic geometric patterns. So let us begin straight away with what's in a name. I call these patterns Islamic geometric patterns. This isn't something that is universally agreed on or liked by everybody who practices in this field. It's a vast sort of range geographically and in time subject. So therefore, to have one agreed way of describing it is a tricky and a big ask. So just know that you will come across different names. And the reason that I choose to call it Islamic geometric patterns is several reasons. So let's start off with, firstly, there are other types of patterns, the stylized florals that are sometimes called biomorphs or arabesque, and other words in other languages. So again, that isn't even agreed on. So I don't specialize in those. I do specialize in geometric patterns. So for me, having those two words together is quite a useful thing. Next, the word Islamic. So this might be seemed or deemed as something that is giving it a religious connotation. I would say no, it would be something that is shorthand for geometric patterns from the Islamic lands. So these are places where Muslims ruled at one point or another through history. So therefore, Islamic is the one factor that applies to all of them. However, not everybody agrees with this. Not everybody likes this term, especially those people who might be practicing in something where they're specializing in a particular area. Then I think that's really useful to have all of that localized and really detailed knowledge of that particular region, say Turkey or Iran or Morocco and so on. There are lots of arguments about what to call it. So I think this is the least annoying and least dangerous, yet quite descriptive. Did I say dangerous? Yeah, but least controversial term. And I think is used sufficiently enough by enough people for me to feel, okay with it. I'm not reinventing anything. Okay, now, like I've mentioned this already. So, nuance, subjectivity, and opinion. It is so important that as an artist, I can only offer you my point of view and my opinion. I can't give you like an overall comprehensive view of this world of patterns. That is a huge undertaking, and no, I haven't got that ability. So within that, you could say also, I have preferences that I like drawing by hand and I like creating patterns that are colorful and so on. So I have a certain interest in a certain area in this vast world. And so therefore, when you speak to other people, they'll have an other different interest. They'll come at it from a different point of view. I have a maths brain, I have a teaching background, so these things come to the fore. So just know that there'll be a whole range of voices and opinions, and all of them are acceptable and good. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, this is the one, you must listen to me. Please, no, no. I'm not like that. Okay, let's go through and let's start at the beginning. So I love to think that we are all links in a chain. Okay, so what we're practicing is based on what people before us practiced. We're linked either strongly or vaguely to the people in the past. Okay, and I want to give you some context. And it's really interesting. When I was teaching mathematics as a secondary school maths teacher, hardly ever did any of the subjects that I loved have any context. And so now that I have an opportunity to give these patterns context, I'm going to do that. Okay, so you can say that these patterns originated in the 7th century since the rise of Islam. Okay, they were influenced by what came before. So imagine that time, that 7th century. So Christian Byzantine art, Persian art, Greek, Roman, all sorts of, and all the local influences, by the way, the ones that I might not even know. So all of that, you could say, influenced what then grew and evolved in all the different regions in the Islamic lands. So if you look at this map, the green area is kind of over our kind of specialism, because this is all the places under Muslim rule at one point or another or history. And so within these places, so southern Spain, North Africa, coming from Morocco all the way to Egypt, the Arabian Peninsula, Turkey coming towards East Europe, then Central Asia, Persia, the Persia and Central Asia and India, Pakistan and the Indian subcontinent, and to parts of China and beyond. So these are places where you might find historically these patterns. And so they were usually commissioned by or for Muslims. However, the thing that I want to really highlight is they were created by people of different faiths and languages. So, for example, when I look at the people I interact with when I practice this artwork, gosh, all sorts of different ages, backgrounds, nationalities, all engaging in these patterns in a really beautiful way. And that's something I think is a really beautiful characteristic. Okay, so I will mention the websites that I really love, and this is from Pattern in Islamic Art by David Wade. And he says something which I think is a nice point to start, given that huge map. How do we say that that led to me in London being able to practice what I practice? So, the European incursions into the Islamic world in the 19th century marked the beginnings of a recognition by some, at least, of its high aesthetic achievements. So, 19th century European explorers really took an interest in these patterns, and not only took an interest, but recorded them in such a way that they could then be used by us to recreate and then it kind of live on. So many of these patterns, they still exist historically, but not all of them. So, you know, the way that things survive through history, it's not always the case. So here's some examples of these European explorers and the books that they created. So if you look at the dates first, so 1879 and different dates in the 19th century and then one in the 20th century. But these are key players that recorded all these patterns. So Bourgogne, Priest Avenes, my French is terrible, Dresser, Hessemer, Owen Jones, who is basically the backbone of the V&A Museum, Simakov, and Terzi. So these people, they recorded the patterns as flat and as precisely as they could and knew. And they use technology called lithograph, where you are printing, no, not lithograph, sorry, but copper plate etching. So they're etching onto these plates, and therefore that is then an easier way, something that can be reproduced quite easily. And therefore books were made, and these patterns were spread or recorded in such a way that then books were made about them later on in the 20th century. People were writing about them, people were discovering them. So in the website Pattern Islamic Art, not only do you have all of these sort of publications from the past, you also have David Wade's own photography collection of all these different places, dating back from 1960s till I guess now. So this idea that these patterns have been recorded is such a gift for us. So the 19th century Europeans, them recording it led to many people analyzing it. The photographs that you see on David Wade's website, and I'll show you another website, Tiling Search, that also allowed us to start trying to make our way into this really vast, overwhelming world of patterns. So if I want to talk about people who, you know, followed on from those 19th century explorers, there's a bit of a gap here, by the way. It's not like back to back immediately, but I just want to pick up the pieces which I think I know about and are important. So somebody called Keith Critchlow, almost like a father figure in this world of patterns, he established a school called Vita, and then that became the Prince's School of Traditional Arts, which then became the King's Foundation School of Traditional Arts. That is a really important organization in preserving these traditional arts. So not only geometric patterns, but many other arts that probably, if this school didn't exist, might just disappear because they're not practiced sufficiently. But because of places like this, people are learning and preserving these skills, which is such a wonderful thing. To graduates from and alumni of the King's Foundation School of Traditional Arts, it used to call PSTA, Adam Williamson and Richard Henry. They are the two people I learnt from in 2013. So if they hadn't have learnt what they learnt from that school that was established by Keith Critchlow and Prince Charles, would I have learnt what I've learnt? Maybe not. So I do really find it important to kind of acknowledge those links in the chain. It's so important. So yeah, they started my journey, and I'm forever grateful for the inspiration they gave me. I had no idea at the time that this is what it would become. So eternally grateful, always name checking. Then we have a kind of a list of names that is quite varied, but Daud Sutton, he's also a graduate of the Prince's School, and I've learned a great deal from him in working with him. And on the next page, you'll see Amit Hindachar. So learning so much from these guys is honestly the moments when you remember something when it clicked, that is super powerful. And I know that's with every person on this page, and probably more that I've forgotten, but awkward. Eric Brogue, he's one of the first ones to create a wide stream book about drawing these patterns. Now, granted, it's not perfect, but you've got to acknowledge when people independently of their own accord start trying to make a way into this world of patterns and start sharing what they know. I don't know if I could ever publish a book mistake free. I'm so glad I live on a kind of the world of the internet where I can take things back, edit them, and put them back in the world. But making a book, that is a big deal. Anthony Brown, or Tony Lee, as he's often known, he made extensive notes in the 60s and 70s in what seems like his diary, which is really amusing, that really helped understand this world of patterns. So, so much of what he did led on to other people understanding a great deal. Brian Wichman, he created a website called tilingsearch.org. It's on my website, and that is a catalogue of all the patterns, all of them, and he's categorized them and made them a searchable resource that is so valuable to me that I cannot kind of be more grateful to him. It's now run by MIT, so it's a really important tool resource for us. Brian Wichman, along with David Wade. If you think David Wade has the photographs, Brian Wichman has the kind of the patterns kind of without the context, so PDFs of them, digital drawings. Okay, so together their resources give you the photographs of those places plus the patterns in a digital form as well. Alan Adams, he had a group and has a group actually on Facebook where many of these people and me would interact and kind of exchange ideas. So if I think I started in 2013, I practiced in 2014 and 15 and 16, and 16 is when I started teaching properly in the UK. So that website was a great place to go back and forth with others and discuss things freely. All our analysis, all our opinions about how to draw what was shared very freely. It has evolved since then. So 2016, 17, 18, 19, I would say people started realizing actually this passion of mine, this thing that I want to share, I can share it freely, but I can also put it behind a paywall, not an expensive one necessarily, but earn a living from it. And I think that's so important when you can sustain this subject and spread it widely, not entirely free, but in a way that you can then earn a living from it as well. And so therefore that kind of style of how we shared in that group, I think it evolved and changed and might have disappeared a little bit. But Alan Adams ran that group and he still shares an awful lot of analysis, but also many of the people who share then have also, started to or did begin to change up how they shared. So often running courses online, creating books and resources online as well, and so on. Jay Bonner recorded or created 20 years worth of work on these patterns, a book about that big, really amazing, comprehensive book. And talk about the word comprehensive. This list is not comprehensive, nor is it ordered, I would say, because all of these people, and probably others that I've forgotten, because I haven't got the best memory, have really been vital in creating this world of patterns where I can then just say, oh, I'm going to go to a course with Art of Islamic Pattern, start learning, and not just while I'm there at the course, but then go away, come back and learn on the internet. You are in a different position, my dear friends, because you can learn from a multitude of people. And so the world has grown hugely. Okay, so more brilliant contemporary minds I have learnt from. So Amit, I mentioned already. I would say a lot of these people, I came to know them from 2015, 16, 17. Or actually, let's say that again. I would say some of them from 2013, and then they came to the fore or into my sort of world, and me knowing them, they did exist before. Thereafter. Okay, so Amit and Rajan, brilliant minds. Their analysis is superb. Muhammad Al Janami made a YouTube video which literally opened my eyes hugely. I do sometimes think that his way of describing things can be very black and white and very sort of, this is Western, this is traditional. I might not agree with that all the time, and sometimes some of his followers sort of repeat what he says in a slightly kind of like fight sort of way, and yeah, sometimes it's a bit much, but I definitely love all the work that he creates and how much I've learned from him. Manuel Martinez Vela, oh, I know this person is a mathematician because the way he describes and kind of creates his step by steps and his images and so on, I love it. It's brilliant, and he's created so many books now, written, authored, published, sorry, amazing books about patterns in Spain, so Alhambra, Seville, and so on. Superb resources. Ali Reza Sarfdalir, he's from Iran, as I think is Hamid Rahnama, and they both kind of, because of their knowledge of Persian patterns, the books from Iran and the kind of the ways of teaching, the ways of describing patterns in Iran, in Persian and Farsi, all of that, I learned so much from these guys. And I think Ali Reza Sarfdalir isn't so active on Facebook anymore, but I think he has a Telegram channel. Abdul Halim Godban, also known as Arabizia, he honestly had great videos on YouTube and so much that he used to share on Facebook. The same with Ayman Suleiman, which is on the next list, and both of them used to share some amazing stuff. So these people definitely impacted and shared things when there was not an abundance of tutorials, not at all. And so therefore, you know, when you found these resources, you were so grateful. Murtadi Nuruddin, he's a Moroccan who is such a practical minded artisan, because the way his videos show things come together, magical hands, I tell you. And then the ladies, there isn't that many ladies, but I do want to give credit and acknowledge Aziza Iqbal and Gia Mirza. When I first started, you know, their Instagram accounts was such a great place for me to look at all the patterns. There were maybe two other artists, Dana Awatani and also Geometry of the Soul. So these artists, I feel I distinctly remember they were practicing this art form when not many others were. And then the world of people on Instagram practicing this art grew and grew and grew and grew. Serap Akizlia Sonmes, oh, I love this lady. The way she communicates, the way she, without any words, so she's Turkish, and the way she communicates without words, her amazing diagrams and how patterns can be so interrelated, again, opens your eyes and really blows your mind. Love the way she thinks. And Sarah Brewer, I've been doing some GeoGebra sessions with her. And when you start using software like GeoGebra, it allows you to animate and make relationships between patterns whilst changing angles, whilst changing symmetry. It's really powerful. So I've learned so much from Sarah as well. And again, this isn't a comprehensive list, nor is it ordered. I value all of these people and probably so many more that have enabled me to teach others, really. Because when you have information presented to you, say I don't know, a pattern analysis, you can then analyze that and tweak that better than starting from nothing. So starting from zero is very difficult. So starting from something and having a foundation or a solid something to kind of start picking apart and rebuilding and adding your kind of point of view and perhaps streamlining, that's amazing. And people like this have enabled me to do that. Okay, let's see what is being said in the chat. So, Sylvia said the brogue just fell in my shopping cart. Thanks for Sarah Breath, who explained how those Bourgogne plates were copper plates and lithograph is something else. I might have mentioned that. Um, Sarah Beth says the Arab World Institute, a building in Paris, is designed with camera-like shutters as windows that open and close with the light levels and create amazing geometric patterns on the floors. Ancient art, modern engineering, beautifully combined. Really cool. Let's see what else there is. Okay. I think that is it for a moment. Okay, let's move on to practicalities. Okay, so I want us to really not underestimate certain aspects of this process. So you are going to be doing something practical with your hands, using a new tool, using new tools, and trying to do as well as possible. So having good eyes. So if you're not getting clear vision, then do you need to wear your better glasses, change your prescription like I had to, and so on and so forth. Good lighting is really important. It's very hard for me to see when I haven't got a good light. So working in the daytime or in the evening with good lamps is really important. Good energy. Like I find it really hard to do something. It happened very recently. I was trying to draw whilst tired. So it's like operating heavy machinery whilst tired. It's so hard to do. It's not easy. So, try to do it when you have good energy. Good tools. And a sentence that I really love is buy the best you can in your budget. So using school compasses is really hard. And I think Safa mentioned this. Buying a good compass made a huge impact on my accuracy. I started IGP with my son's school compass. It's so hard. I tried it myself. It's really tricky. So getting a good technical compass, which I will show you, is really, really important. A good surface. I think somebody mentioned it was, I think, Sarah Beth in workshop week, which was a fantastic thing that happened a couple of weeks back, that she was working on her lap and it was really tricky. So, that occurred to me. I thought that's a really valuable point to mention, that, when you're sitting there doing some art forms, you could just sit on a sofa and just sort of lean on your sort of lap and work. But with this, I would say you need a good stable table or dining table or desk for you to be able to work on. And in terms of actually drawing, I will show you what I mean, that what you would like to have before your paper, between the table and the paper, for it to be a nice experience. Good atmosphere. What do I mean? I don't know. I think I mean it's like, peace and quiet. Nobody asking you to make dinner, where that is and what you're doing. That's from Vanessa. But this idea that you're just having a nice calm atmosphere, I do think is important, the ambiance. I often put on a podcast or listen to Radio 4 or put on some Kawali music or just a playlist. So yeah, setting up yourself to have a nice kind of chunk of time doing this thing is wonderful. Okay, so I want to talk about loose paper versus sketchbook. So I've gone between both, but I tend to use loose paper because my artwork, I have to travel, take it around with me to workshops. So it's important that I have something mobile that I can put together in a folder or a wallet or something. Now, the thing is, I think it's really important to know what you love and acknowledge that. So if somebody says, I want you to work in a sketchbook this size, this, that, it may not be for you. So really just think, do I like that? Do I not like that? And just be kind of very aware of your own likes and dislikes, because whatever I'm telling you to do is my favorite way of doing it. It might not be yours. So be open to just listening to your own voice and carrying through with your own sort of preferences. Okay, practicalities. If I had wanted to start from scratch, okay, I wish I'd kept better notes in terms of dates and names and teachers beside all my drawings. I annotated them a little, but not probably a lot every time. I wish I'd annotated my drawings a bit better. I am now good at using color to highlight certain steps and stages, and therefore I wish I'd done that from the start. So I love fine liner pens for that purpose. Take photos. And the thing is, analog filing, digital filing, I've already mentioned you're going to be drawing several times. I've already said you're going to be taking photos. Then there'll be potentially handouts and PDFs and recordings. So be organized, whether it's analog or digitally, because it really helps later on when you try to look for things. And I would say try to have your project named by the date and a description. So for example, I would name this as 2024-07 IGP 101 session 1. And then everything related to it, my PowerPoint, the images, the video would go in that on my folder in my computer and on my phone and in a paper format. So one day the phone and the folder on my desktop will combine, but the one that is, a folder will go in a place that I know where it is. So it's really important to be organized because, if I'm saying certain things, which I'm going to say, you're going to get a lot of paper, a lot of photos very quickly. Now, I really want to encourage something. So social media, I think, is a brilliant asset for those of you practicing this art form. And don't treat it just as social media. Treat it as quite a specific thing, your digital diary. And I would encourage people to start or use a faceless art account. You can make the name as anonymous and as nicknamey as you like. You don't have to have your face there if you don't want to. If you do want to, please do. But I get the feeling most of us artists just want to get on with the creating and doing. And it's not really about our faces. And then you can use hashtags and tagging to really access this amazing community of Islamic geometric pattern and more practitioners. So therefore, you are able to use your account to share your journey and connect with other people who practice it as well. Because let's be frank, when we practice this art form and we show a member of our family or a friend, they're like, that's nice. They don't always get it. They don't always have that same sense of what it is. So if you can connect with like-minded people, social media is a great way to do that. And that connection is so important, because I tell you, when you create something yourself, you'll say, oh, that line's a bit off, that color's a bit dodgy, that's not very even, I wish you did that better. Like, you'll have all the critique perfectly done. You are your own worst critic. But when you connect with others, they have a little bit of distance from it, and therefore they are able to see, whoa, wow, that's gorgeous, and really appreciate your work in a different view with fresh eyes. And it's really important, because you'll do that for others and they'll do that for you with not any sort of like fakery, with genuine, like, oh, that's lovely. And if you're a beginner and you've not drawn before, that context is ready for them to know, it's fine. It's not everything has to be perfect. Okay, I've got something in my eye. I'm not crying. Okay, let's see if there's any chats. So yeah, talking about when people do their artwork. So some people do it when the kids are in school, and that was from Shweta. People are loving the artless face account. So I called it a faceless art account. Oh no, an artless face account. People said, isn't that faceless? That was very amusing. Yeah. Now, taking photos, I have to say, is a really important part of social media. And let's just demonstrate one thing. When you're taking photos, if you can find which button is the one that allows you to take the actual photo, hold it up high over your artwork, okay, and just be taking loads without really seeing it. You can move it around, and then you can adjust. Now, your photo and your artwork, try to do it when it's in good light. So daytime photography, or put it right in front of the window or patio doors, or something on the floor in front of the patio doors was classic for me. And stand up if you can over it, extend your arms in front of you and snap, 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 have a look, see if it's all right, snap, 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 and then you can adjust. So just give yourself a chance to record your artwork as kind of beautifully as possible, not just sort of like sit there and like go, no. Very rarely does that give you a good photo or a good representation of what you're doing. Okay, right. Let's move on. Okay, mindset. Manage your expectations. If you are a beginner in something, please know that you are not going to be perfect at it the first time you do it. You will have mistakes and inaccuracies, and that's perfectly normal. And please accept that, because you are learning to see and you are learning to draw. So when me or somebody points out something and it seems that they're doing really quickly, that's because they're experienced. And if you're doing a little bit slowly, that's reality for when you're learning. So just allow yourself that time, that few extra seconds, that few extra moments to see what is going on. Pause videos, pause between steps, and really try to look for things. And please be kind to yourself. We are our own harshest critics. And if you're starting a little Instagram account, don't open your caption with a critique of what's there. No, just let that voice be internal and let the other voices of other people really come through. Don't set it up for you. Oh my god, this is rubbish. No, 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 I don't like that. Like, be positive and love to learn. So learning is a process that has ups and downs, highs and lows, frustrations and successes, all sorts of mixtures of emotions and feelings and kind of wins and losses. Okay, so if you love to learn, you'll know all of those are valuable and you learn a lot from those mistakes. So I think if you want to do this, you have to love to learn. Love to learn. um, okay. All right. Vanessa has said, I don't usually share photos on social, but have a faceless art account sounds but having a faceless art account sounds good. Sometimes I share photos of a project with my sisters and then come back to it a few weeks later and think, hey, I actually did that. The distance is helpful, I think. And other people always have that distance, so can see the good side sooner. And that's kind of what I said. I think I stole Vanessa's word when I said distance. So yeah, that is a real valid point. And Sarah Beth has said, I love that you will never run out of new patterns to discover or recreate. There's always something new or old to discover. I agree with that 100%. I've got a few questions from Rehab. When I say I was analyzing patterns, what would that imply? So when you're looking at a pattern in architecture, having the ability to recreate that and draw that by compass and ruler is an analysis of it. So being able to do that by looking at it and then having a go and drawing it and recreating it with a compass and ruler, that's typically what that analysis is. Let's see if there's more patterns. Rehab has said, have you heard of aphantasia, mind blindness? It is essential for someone to be in a position to see in 3D vision for IGP. I think that sort of thing, like, I wouldn't say put up barriers before you've even started. The best and the biggest advice that anyone can give you is just start. Before we think of all the issues that might be an issue, they may not even be. They may not be at all. So just start. So when you draw, if there are moments when you can't see or you feel like it's not making sense, pause. Literally just pause and take a break, or just wait for your brain to catch up. So the process of learning is something where you're doing something the first time, it takes that amount of time. The next time, maybe this time. The next time, maybe this time. Maybe go back to that time because you're tired. But you're getting shorter and shorter or better and better at it the more you do. But if you don't do, and perhaps you're thinking, oh, I can't, or there's this issue, that issue, then you won't even get a chance to kind of learn about yourself and how you learn. Alessandra, it's not the actual designing, it's the tessellation and the watercolors. Yeah, that can be an issue in itself. So learning to use materials and learning to repeat a pattern, definitely worth practicing all of the processes. Okay, another thing, compare yourself to just yourself. So when you first start off, if you think about how far you've come and how better you are at being able to see and draw, your accuracy, it's not linear, by the way, so there will be ups and downs along the way, but you will then get such great confidence from your own progress. Everyone's at a different stage and level. So when you go online or see other people sharing their artwork, don't compare yourself to it. Just be inspired by it. And people have different levels of free time. So sometimes when I'm doing something on Patreon, I notice that, some people are like, oh, when did they do that? Like, people have different times. You can't expect everyone to have the same lifestyle as you. So, don't be frustrated by these things. Just let them go and be inspired, be encouraged by, a place that you can reach if you keep practicing and keep drawing. It's such an important mindset. And I think these are mindsets for life, really, aren't they? So, nothing new here, just we're applying it in the world of Islamic geometric patterns. IGP 101. Okay, this is a really important one. Be comfortable with not understanding it all immediately. Be comfortable with leaving it for later, whatever it may be. So I remember when I was learning with Richard in 2013, he's got real like deep level thinking and amazing knowledge in terms of philosophy and areas of things I don't know about. So I would start listening to him and I'm like, yep, yep. And then I'd be like, oh, I don't understand. Don't know what that means. Mm. Ah, and rather than panic, I would just like listen along until I'm back in, like, back in the room. So this idea of understanding everything, I don't understand everything, and I just let them go. I look at sometimes things or conversations that used to happen in Facebook groups, and I thought, oh, that's too complicated a pattern. That's a bit beyond me. Don't understand what they're saying. Maybe I'll understand it in the future, and I did. So some of those things I did understand later on, and some of them I don't think I went back to. So be comfortable with leaving things for later and not understanding everything. Like, have holes in your knowledge. That's life, right? So it's fine. Okay, process. So if you enjoy the process of looking at the patterns, trying to draw them, drawing circles and lines, painting, transferring, all of these processes, if you enjoy them, you will enjoy learning this world of patterns. It's not about the outcomes. If you like, the outcome is a bonus. If it's beautiful and as your mind visualized and as you expected, fine. Brilliant, celebrate. But if it's not, don't beat yourself up. Just think, I spent a lovely time creating that. And it can be frustrating, it can be stressful, there can be all sorts of pressure, but enjoy all of that and trust that process. There'll be times when you're halfway through doing something and it looks ugly, but it's fine. The process is you do it 16 times or 12 times, then it'll look about right. And don't sort of stop halfway through, like drawing something 16 times and think, oh, why does it look so dodgy? It's supposed to. It's not a place to pause. You just do it slowly but surely. And respect that process. I guess sometimes there's an eagerness with people. They want to learn, and they want to learn the hard things fast. Like, I'll tell you a classic thing that has kind of happened where somebody will say, pluck out of the air or the internet a pattern and say, I want to learn to draw this. That is, I would say, the wrong way of going about things when you're a learner. Save it for later, but learn what is presented to you and learn and come back to those things. Don't pinpoint something that you want to learn and then set your whole world about that, because they might not be the right level. It might be too complicated. The way it's been taught or so on isn't necessarily a way that you can access. So have that saved or stored. But the fact that to reach that, you need to be learning and practicing other patterns, and they're beautiful in their own right. So respect that process of learning and respect that process of learning each pattern as well, and enjoy it. It's really important. Okay. This is so important. You will learn about yourself. You will learn what you like, dislike, your patience, your perseverance, frustrations, and overcoming them. Notice what kind of learner you are. Notice what kind of person you are, and really kind of find ways to do what you enjoy and really stretch out those processes you enjoy. So for example, some of my geometry friends love the drawing process more than the painting, so they'll do that and they'll love that. And some people will take one drawing and paint it several times in different materials and resources, so they kind of eke out maybe 8 or 9 patterns from one, where somebody else will just do one, and they'll do it to such an extent and love it. So enjoy all of those, and your patience and your perseverance. Your perseverance needs to be a big aspect of your learning. You've got to be able to know that you might draw one drawing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times to get it, to understand it. And if you know that, it's so much better than if you think, I expect to understand this first time. tricky business. Setting yourself up for fail. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Okay. Rehab, how can individualism permeate through IGP? It's the way we render the pattern. So the thing I just described, using different materials and mediums to render the pattern. Render means just to create your artistic outcome. So the way we do that varies person to person. Colors, techniques, materials, all of that gives you such individualism. And that's the thing I love. One pattern can lead to so many distinct, unique, beautiful artwork. Yasmin has got, I have a very British Islamic outlook. Find it very hard to say nice things about my work, but I'm very gracious, kind, and positive with others. Yeah, I understand that. I get that, because I think it's that self-deprecating Britishness, and also the generosity that we're taught, in manners in Islam, that you are nice and generous to others, and don't boast about yourself, sort of thing. But yeah, I think trying to manage that in this artwork is, you can stay quiet, right? Yeah, try it, and that might work. Rujal, I'm just starting out on my journey through Islamic geometric patterns. After discovering your wonderful work during workshop week, I currently follow long YouTube channels to create the patterns, but I'm curious about how you begin to innovate and explore your own creativity in this field. I always attempt to recreate a pattern, but is there a room for artistic freedom? So one of the artistic freedoms is how you render the pattern. So you've drawn the lines and shapes and proportions exactly and correctly as they should be historically, and then how you add color, how you add line, detailing, pattern, how you combine color, what material you use. That's your individual creative freedom coming through. Because I would say, although the patterns are rigid and kind of correct, how I paint them is very varied. So that's my creative endeavor and making it unique and individual to me. In terms of uh, innovation and exploration, there is opportunity to do that. So imagine you're applying the rules of a pattern. If you started bending or changing those rules or applying them in different scenarios, you can generate new and varied patterns, which is very exciting. But I think it's something that when you're first starting, just know it exists, and again, leave it for later, because it's a case of having to know the rules for you to be able to bend the rules. When I've seen people bend the rules literally on their second or third painting, to my eye, they're not that beautiful. Sorry, it's just not quite right. I think there is innovation, but it's to be done in a certain way. Okay, next I'm going to take you to my website. I'm going to have a nice guided tour. Let me just see if there's any other questions. I will come back to. Okay, I think some of the questions I've got here will be answered later. So yeah, I'm gonna go to my website now.